The making of a medieval book was a complex and labor-intensive process that involved various stages of production. During the Middle Ages, books were primarily copied by hand, and they were usually produced by monks or scribes in monastic scriptoria manuscript production centers. Here is an overview of the steps involved in creating a medieval manuscript. The preparation of parchment was a critical step in the creation of medieval manuscripts. Parchment was the primary writing surface used during the Middle Ages, and it was made from animal skins, typically those of calves, sheep, or goats. Here's a more detailed look at the parchment preparation process. The process began with the selection of high-quality animal skins. Calves, sheep, and goats were the most common sources of parchment due to the fine quality of their skins. The choice of animal depended on the desired parchment thickness and texture. After the animal was slaughtered, its skin was carefully removed. The skin had to be removed in a way that preserved as much of the intact surface as possible. The next step was fleshing, which involved removing any remaining flesh, fat, and hair from the inside of the skin. This was typically done using a curved knife or scraping tool. The cleaned skins were then soaked in water to make them more pliable and to loosen any remaining impurities. This soaking process could take several days to a week, depending on the thickness of the skin and the desired result. After soaking, the skins were treated with a solution of lime or a similar alkaline substance. This step served to further soften the skin, remove residual hair and grease, and initiate the removal of the outermost layer of the skin, known as the epidermis. The limed skins were stretched on frames or wooden boards. Scribes or parchment makers would use a curved knife or a specialized scraping tool called a lunellum to carefully remove the epidermis and other impurities from the skin's surface. This scraping process needed to be done meticulously to ensure a smooth, even, and uniform writing surface. Once the scraping was complete, the skins were allowed to dry naturally, which could take several days. They were often stretched on frames during this drying process to prevent them from shrinking or curling as they dried. After the skins were completely dry, they were often subjected to a light heating process, known as parching, to enhance their whiteness and smoothness further. This step involved exposing the skins to controlled heat sources like hot sand or an open flame for a short period. Once the parchment was prepared, it was cut into the desired size and shape for the manuscript pages. Parchment makers would trim the edges to create even, neat pages. After this extensive preparation process, the parchment was ready to be used by scribes for the manual transcription of texts and illustrations. The quality of the parchment and the care taken in its preparation played a significant role in the longevity and visual appeal of medieval manuscripts. Writing the text was a central and meticulous process in the creation of medieval manuscripts. Scribes, often monks or skilled professionals, were responsible for carefully copying texts by hand onto the prepared parchment pages. Here's a more detailed look at the process of writing the text. Scribes typically used quills made from feathers, often goose or swan feathers, as their writing instruments. These quills were carefully cut and shaped to create a fine point. The ink used for writing was usually made from a mixture of water, a pigment commonly lampblack for black ink, and a binding agent such as gum arabic or egg white. Different colors of ink were used for headings, initials, and decorative elements. Before writing, scribes would often rule horizontal lines on the parchment to create evenly spaced lines for the text. The distance between the lines depended on the desired line spacing, which could vary between manuscripts. The choice of script style depended on the time period, location, and purpose of the manuscript. Common script styles used in medieval manuscripts included Carolingian, Gothic, Uncial, and others. Scribes needed to be skilled in the particular script style they were using to maintain uniformity and legibility. Scribes would copy the text from a source manuscript, which could be another handwritten book or a printed text. They often worked in a scriptorium, a dedicated room within a monastery or scriptorium, where they had access to source materials and good lighting. The process of copying the text involved writing each word, letter, and punctuation mark with precision. Scribes were trained to avoid errors and make corrections neatly if mistakes were made. In illuminated manuscripts, the scribe often worked in collaboration with illuminators. After writing the text, the scribe would leave spaces for decorative initials, borders, and illustrations. Illuminators would then fill these spaces with vibrant colors, intricate designs, and often gold leaf to create visually stunning pages. Some scribes and readers added marginal notes, annotations, or commentary to the text. These notes provided explanations or additional information and were often added in the margins or between lines. The process of copying a manuscript was time-consuming, and scribes were highly trained individuals. They took great care to ensure the accuracy, legibility, and overall quality of the manuscript. Once a section or page was complete, the scribe would often apply red or blue ink to mark the beginning of a new paragraph or section, which helped readers navigate the text. Writing a medieval manuscript required immense skill, patience, and attention to detail. The final product was not only a repository of knowledge but also a work of art, with the aesthetic qualities of the script, illuminations, and overall presentation contributing to its significance and value. Decorative elements played a significant role in the creation of medieval manuscripts, enhancing their visual appeal and cultural importance. These elements added artistic and aesthetic value to the pages, making the manuscripts not just functional texts but also works of art. Here are some key decorative elements commonly found in medieval manuscripts. Illuminated manuscripts often featured decorative initial letters at the beginning of chapters, sections, or paragraphs. These initials were often enlarged and elaborately decorated with intricate designs, patterns, and vibrant colors. Historiette initials were particularly elaborate and featured miniature illustrations of scenes or figures related to the text. Manuscript pages, especially those in illuminated manuscripts, frequently included decorative borders. These borders could be simple or highly ornate, with intricate patterns, foliage, animals, or mythical creatures. The use of gold leaf and vibrant pigments made these borders shimmer and catch the light, adding to their visual allure. Miniatures were intricate illustrations or paintings within the manuscript. These often depicted scenes from the text, religious narratives, historical events, or portraits of important figures. Miniatures were highly detailed and required great skill from the illuminator. They were sometimes framed by decorative borders. Marginalia refers to the drawings, doodles, or decorative designs found in the margins of the manuscript pages. While some marginalia were purely decorative, others might have had symbolic or humorous elements. These marginal decorations could vary widely in style and content, providing insight into the creativity and personality of the scribe or illuminator. Some manuscripts featured historiette borders, which combined decorative elements with small illustrations or scenes related to the text. These borders surrounded the text and added beauty and context to the page. Within the text, scribes often used decorative illuminated capital letters at the beginning of sentences, verses, or significant passages. These were often adorned with colors, patterns, and sometimes small illustrations. Manuscript illuminators often used gold leaf to add a touch of luxury to their work. The application of gold leaf created shimmering, radiant elements on the page. Occasionally, precious materials like silver or even jewels were used for incredibly lavish manuscripts. The script itself could be a decorative element. Scribes sometimes employed calligraphic variations, such as Lombardic or uncial script, to create visually striking headings or initials. Manuscripts were adorned with a wide range of colorful inks, including red, blue, green, and purple, in addition to black ink for the main text. These inks were often made from natural pigments and could vary in shade and intensity. These decorative elements not only enhanced the aesthetic appeal of medieval manuscripts but also served practical purposes. They helped readers navigate the text by highlighting important sections and creating a visual hierarchy. Additionally, they conveyed the importance and cultural significance of the manuscript and the text it contained. The preservation of medieval manuscripts was crucial to ensure their longevity and continued availability for future generations. These valuable documents contain not only important texts but also artistic and historical insights. Preserving manuscripts requires careful handling, storage, and protection from various environmental and physical threats. Here are some key aspects of manuscript preservation. Manuscripts were typically stored in controlled environments, such as libraries, archives, or monastic repositories. These spaces were designed to maintain stable temperature and humidity levels, which help prevent deterioration. Ideal temperature and humidity levels vary depending on the materials used in the manuscript, but generally, temperatures between 60 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit and relative humidity levels between 40 to 55% were considered suitable. Exposure to light, especially ultraviolet light, can cause fading and deterioration of pigments and parchment. Manuscripts were often kept in dark or dimly lit storage areas. When manuscripts were displayed or studied, special UV filtering glass or transparent materials were used to shield them from harmful light. Manuscripts were handled with clean hands or, ideally, while wearing protective gloves to avoid transferring oils, dirt, or moisture to the pages. Careful page turning was essential to prevent tears or damage, and bookmarks or weights were used to keep pages open without causing stress to the binding. Manuscripts were often placed in acid-free, archival quality enclosures or boxes to protect them from dust, pollutants, and physical damage. For valuable or fragile manuscripts, custom-made supports, such as cradles or book rests, were used when they were displayed or studied to minimize stress on the bindings. Skilled conservators were employed to repair and conserve manuscripts when necessary. This could involve repairing torn pages, stabilizing bindings, or addressing other forms of damage. Conservation work was performed using reversible materials and techniques to ensure the manuscript's long-term integrity. Institutions housing manuscripts often employed environmental monitoring systems to track temperature, humidity, and other factors that could impact preservation. These systems helped identify and address any fluctuations or issues that might endanger the manuscripts. Manuscripts were protected from theft through security measures such as locked storage areas, alarm systems, and restricted access to authorized personnel. To further ensure the preservation of manuscript content, many institutions have undertaken digitization projects. High-quality digital reproductions enable broader access to the content while reducing physical handling. Detailed records and documentation of each manuscript, including its condition, history, and any conservation work performed, were maintained to aid in future preservation efforts. Institutions and libraries often provide training to staff and researchers on proper manuscript handling and care to minimize the risk of accidental damage. The preservation of medieval manuscripts required ongoing vigilance and investment in resources and expertise. Through these efforts, many invaluable manuscripts have been safeguarded and continue to be accessible for scholarly study and public appreciation today. The production of medieval books was a painstaking and meticulous process that required a great deal of skill and patience. These manuscripts played a crucial role in preserving and transmitting knowledge, culture, and religious texts throughout the Middle Ages and continue to be valuable historical artifacts today. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more videos.